Hello YouTube. This is going to be the Q&A video that I promised to commemorate my 1,000 subscriber level, and I would like to take a moment to just welcome all the newest subscribers and thank you all very much, and certainly to thank Wildwood Claire for another shout out. I got another nice Wildwood Claire bump. I was languishing around the 980 plus minus for quite a while, and I noticed I've jumped up some 40 or 50 subscribers since her shout out on Sunday, so I really do appreciate it. And with that, let's go on to the Q&A. Gord M had asked, question, musical interests. I noticed a keyboard in your videos. Do you play? Yeah, I do, sort of. I learned to play piano sort of self-taught quite early. My parents got a piano when I was probably 8 or 9 or something like that. And I could play by ear. I could replicate a melody pretty easily, and I could compose my own songs quite easily. I played clarinet and tenor saxophone in high school, but once I got out of high school, real life kind of took over, and I couldn't afford any musical instruments of my own, and I didn't really have a lot of time. Now, subsequent to that, I was able to purchase my own musical instruments once I'd become a little more successful in my career, but I still don't have a lot of time, and so quite often I will go down to the basement and I can, make a nice melody, even something that could be turned into a song, and then, it's time to shut her down for the night, and I end up sort of losing that. Next time I go downstairs, I don't remember what I did before. Probably the only real accomplishment I've had in the last little while is a little bit of music that's with my outro to my videos. Helena Handbasket asked, how did you get yourself to get started? Discuss your process and internal state surrounding your very first upload. I'd actually had YouTube channels for quite a while without any real content on them. I didn't feel like it was necessary for me to make content until I had something I could contribute. I didn't want to sort of just be another voice in the echo chamber. And when I saw the presuppositional apologetic of Sye-Ten Bruggencate making the rounds on YouTube, I noticed a lot of people sort of getting caught in this little logic trap that he's constructed, and I felt like there was something I could contribute to sort of help people deconstruct this clever little parlor trick that he's got, and so I started making my first videos. So there wasn't much of an internal state to deal with at that point because I really felt like I had something to contribute, and admittedly those first videos were terrible. I think they still are, but hopefully I've progressed at least just a little bit. Zeph Zhang asked, Ninja or Jedi? And I hope I don't disappoint, but neither. I've never really been much into this sort of weaponry and fighters and all of that sort of thing. I'm a gearhead by nature, so I've got a PS3 and an Xbox 360, but the only titles I own are motorsports. It's all racing all the time with me. Tabletop Joe 33 said, I'd be interested in whatever you'd be comfortable telling us about you and your missus. Well, this is my second marriage. We've been together, however, for almost 20 years. This December it'll be 20. And the first almost half of our relationship was really, really rocky. We were up and down like an evil roller coaster. Just absolute knockdown, drag out, screaming match fights, lots of crying, lots of breakups and makeups. And this all culminated actually in my wife moving away. She had decided to get a new start, and so she moved up north where her parents live, and pretty soon we started emailing each other, and we soon realized that we're not very good together, but we weren't very good apart either. We better figure out how to make at least one of those two scenarios work. So I ended up going up north to propose to her, and then we started a new life together and made a lot more commitment and a lot more compromise, and since then things have been great. Joe also asked, do you get a lot of older vehicles, and do you prefer old or new? So for those who don't know me, I am a mechanic, and yeah, I prefer new actually. I was trained in the GM dealership environment, and so we were always trained in the newest technology as soon as it came out, and I'm really more comfortable with that, even though it's actually more challenging. The older stuff I do like working on, and I have quite a few clients with older vehicles, but the issue there is these are their babies. And so I'd like to work on them like 6 feet away and not touch anything for fear of chipping, scratching, damaging, smudging in some way. I like working on the older stuff. It's just a little more nerve-wracking because these people know every square millimeter of their car. Joe also asked, do you make anything as a hobby? I assume you mean automotive. I do sort of. I've got a ton of hobbies, so the small amount of time I have is spread between them all. And as of recent, YouTube videos is another hobby, so add that to the mix. I do have a car that I supercharged, and that's my own vehicle. And nobody makes a kit for it, so I had to machine everything myself. So I've got a bit of a machine shop. I've got a lathe mill combo, a big milling machine, another lathe, MIG welder, a plasma cutter, those sorts of things. And so I had to make all the parts for that supercharger install myself. I think I did a nice job of it. But it's a little bit hard to motivate yourself to work on cars at night or on the weekends when you've been working on vehicles all day long. Do you read much, and what? I don't read much. Again, time is an issue. The last book I read was Confessions of an Economic Hitman by John Perkins, and I can't even remember what after that. Maybe when I retire, I'll get a chance to read more. And the most important question, what's your opinion of Tom Waits? Be careful, I may be forced to unsub. I don't think you're going anywhere, Joe. But I will say this, being a musician wannabe or an amateur musician myself, I have a great deal of respect for what I would call the real artists. I would put Tom Waits in that category, even though I don't listen to him all that much. Bod DeBits asked, that garage you work in, I've worked in garages and they've never looked that clean. So I'm assuming it's a green screen set you use to disguise your real employment. What job did you really see yourself doing as a kid? Well, first of all, Bod, I'm going to take that as a compliment. I certainly do prefer a clean workspace. And it's just nice on a Monday morning to go to work and have all the tools where they should be and a clean environment. It's also very good advertising. All my advertising is by word of mouth. So when someone comes and drops off their car and their friend comes to pick them up, and they come into the shop and it's that clean, it's usually, they'll usually call me soon thereafter. So it is very good advertising, I think. As for what I saw myself doing as a kid, yeah, I wanted to be a musician. That's really what I had envisioned. Now, I was a gearhead all along, so it was natural for me to go into automotive mechanics. Obviously musician is a tough road, and it's hard to make a living. Durakin said, question 1, where are my pants? Well, dude, if you don't know, I'm not going to tell you. Question 2, what's your favorite car? Excellent question to ask a gearhead. My favorite car is based more on styling than it is technical things, even though that's what I am, a technical guy. Because you can add a fancy motor to any car if you want. So I prefer to look at cars based on their styling. And for that reason, my favorite car is the 1965 through 69 Corvair coupes. I think they had beautiful styling myself. And yes, the cars had some problems, some issues, although the issues they had actually are not the ones that most everyone thinks, sort of based on the Ralph Nader business. They had other issues that had more to do with the difference between the goals of the engineers and the goals of the bean counters. So that's why you'll have cars like Lamborghini and Porsche much more technologically advanced, because price is less of an object, their money is less of an object. And the Corvair was actually meant to be an economy car. But that second generation coupe was a very nicely styled car. In that same vein, my second choice would be a 1961 Impala Supersport with the bubble top coupe. And the 61 was the version before the bubble top that everyone's familiar with, which was the 1962 Bel Air. But that 61 Impala had some pretty nice lines. What's your favorite comedian? I don't listen to a lot of comedy, but I would have to say probably Bill Hicks. I don't have a lot of patience for the obvious humor, the potty humor that is, most of these movies that come out nowadays. They're all just the obvious humor and the potty humor. I like intelligent humor. And Bill Hicks was a bit more of a pessimist than I am. He was a little wry, but by the same token, he was a smart dude. And so that's probably who I would choose. Question 4, what are you most looking forward to about the future? Well, if you mean my future, I would just say more time to enjoy my hobbies. If you mean the future in general, I would say the next invention that's going to be the big paradigm shift, or any invention that's really going to change how people live. I think that's incredibly interesting as we're on this, ever increasing slope of technology. It's going to be interesting to see what comes down the pike. Star Trek, Stargate, or Star Wars? I would have to say Space 1999. I'm not actually a big fan of any of those series anyway. And then the reason Space 1999 resonates with me is when I was a little boy, we lived, in an area where we didn't have electricity, we didn't have television. So I would walk down to this older lady's home down the road from us, and she did have a television. And she would, feed me some cookies or something for lunch and let me watch any program that I wanted. And I always watched Space 1999. And so that sort of has a place somewhere back in the memory reserves for me. Given what you currently believe, is there anything you regret or find embarrassing that you said, did, or thought in the past? Not really. I mean, I think I would be more embarrassed if I hadn't changed to reflect newer understandings. What do the terms sexy and beautiful mean to you? That's an excellent question. I could probably talk for hours on this topic, but for me, beauty is about physicality, and sexy is a little more up here, I think. And of course, beautiful can be, expanded to cover all kinds of things other than just human beings. Of course, beautiful sunset, beautiful music, beautiful poem. Sexy, though, for me is really a state of mind. It's a way of carrying yourself. It's a way of coming across. I've found a lot of very beautiful women, not all that sexy. They, and again, it's how someone carries themselves. And conversely, I found some women who I wouldn't even call beautiful necessarily, incredibly attractive, in that sexy kind of way. And again, it's just the way they come across, the way they carry themselves. Michael Lavin asked, I would like to hear your thought process during the steps you take when diagnosing mechanical problems. What is the coolest ride you've seen around your town lately? Well, the coolest ride I've seen around the town lately is a 1956 Porsche 356 that was restored by a former co-worker of mine, and it is an absolutely flawless car. He's got an incredible attention to detail, and one day he just drove it into my yard. I didn't even know he had the car. And it is probably one of the most pristine Porsche 356s around. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. As for the steps I take when diagnosing things, fortunately for me, I was trained very well in strategy-based diagnostics. And nowadays, that pretty much starts almost always with a scan test. We plug in the scanner, and whatever the system is that we are concerned with, say it's anti-lock brakes, first you see if you can even communicate with the computer in this case the ABS computer, and then you see if it's stored any trouble codes, and then you just go down a step-by-step chart from there. The only area that I deviate from those strategy-based diagnostics is once I get to the bottom, after you've tested and you follow the chart down, performing the tests that they ask, and then, okay, now go to step 7, depending on the results. When they reach a conclusion, I'll always look at the circuit description and the wiring diagram and just see if there's any way that I can develop any tests on my own to confirm the conclusion that I've already come to. I don't much like being wrong. I don't like spending my customers' money needlessly, and so that's just one way of sort of making sure that I've got it right. Philosophical Vlogs asked, have you ever created a universe? Yes, I have, and you're welcome to stay as long as you like. However, I would like the opportunity to visit yours. Perhaps we could do a timeshare or something at some point. What do you think about life after death? That's a good question. That's one that I really struggle with. I've pretty much always been an atheist, but I have in the past believed in more supernatural things than I do at present. The one thing that really remains with me is the hope that my sentience won't end after this meat puppet shuts down. And so, obviously I don't know. I don't think really anybody knows, but I kind of hope that there is life after death, for sure. I'm going to end it there. It's time for bed, and I really appreciated everyone asking questions and giving me a chance to share just a little bit. Thanks for watching.